Another view of the big picture is thinking about it in terms of, first of all, you learn about your child's special needs and what they require to thrive. And so most of what we're talking about today is autism. But this presentation, and if you have people in your community who want to find out more about advocacy, 90% of what I'm saying today is relevant, probably 95, is relevant to any special need. And then you're going to learn about systems. As you mature as an advocate, you learn about systems that control the resources that your child requires. So this can be the diagnostic early intervention system. It can be education, community living, employment. You know, these change. What's a priority for you changes as your child gets older. But the basic skills you need to advocate are kind of there all the time. And one of the things that I'm going to be urging you all to do is to think about developing your communication skills so that you can advocate for your child's needs and advocate clearly to those who control resources. And often families, and this applies particularly to mothers, I think, deny themselves things that they need to learn about autism, or maybe take an English class or improve their writing skills because they want to focus all the family's resources on therapy for that child in the moment, right? But if you think about it, educating yourself as a parent about whatever special need your child has and developing your own communication skills is a long-term investment in your child. And I think that that's one of the things that for ACT, when we talk about community training, that's so important, you know, for us to communicate to families that it isn't about just professionals providing services to your child, but it's actually about you learning, because that is actually much more cost effective and you're there for the long term. You know, professionals come and go, they're really important, they can teach you a lot, but you're there for the long term. And then point 4, which I feel very strongly about, is that all of us have an obligation to work with our community for the next generation of children. So that's something I will also speak to. So what is advocacy anyway? This is the more complex definition, and it comes from UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund. And they say in their advocacy toolkit that advocacy is the deliberate process based on demonstrated evidence to directly and indirectly influence decision makers. And that's important. You're trying to influence decision makers to provide the services or supports that the person that you're advocating for requires. Stakeholders and relevant audience, sometimes it might be that you're appealing through the media, so those are a wider audience, to support and implement actions that contribute to the fulfillment of children and women's rights. So that's one fairly dense definition. Here's another one. Advocacy is helping someone have their voice heard and making sure their rights are respected. And this is from the Office of BC's Representative for Children and Youth. It's a terrific service that we have in the province, particularly for families who are having problems with having their needs met through services from the Ministry for Children and Family Development. So the Office of BC's Representative for Children and Youth, I'll talk about it a bit more, but we're very lucky in the province to have this. Now, this is advocacy according to Linus. And here's Charlie Brown saying, you say a group of parents got together, but why? And the answer, if you can't read it yourself, is, in all the world, Charlie Brown, there's nothing more frightening than the getting together of a group of parents, right? So it is, you know, families have a great deal, especially en masse, have a great deal of power. Sometimes we don't realize it. Today is going to be talking to you about using that power strategically, carefully, thinking about what your goals are, so that you can actually affect change. Because people will give you some time and listen to you, but if you want change, you have to be really strategic. And it's always good to do it as a group. So there's lots of different types of advocacy. There's the individual advocacy. Most of you are here, I'm sure, because you're child needs services that they're not getting, or you're not sure what services you should be asking for, or you're not sure exactly how you go about making sure that they get what they need. So that's individual advocacy. Group advocacy is when a group of parents say, you know, we're all sharing this particular problem. There seems to be an issue here in our school district, or at our rec center, our children are not being included. So let's get together as a group of parents and discuss it, and maybe we can have a meeting with the administration of the rec center and ask them if we can do something about this. Systemic is really if you're looking at an issue that concerns, for example, the whole education system. Those are systemic issues. And families often who have children with special needs don't often engage as a group of families across the school system. There are some examples of that, but most of the time systemic issues to do with the Ministry of Education are not specific to special needs children, but you know that when a crisis happens, they're talking a lot about kids with special needs, but for many families, they don't feel that actually what is going on is reflective of their concerns. Self-advocacy is when individuals with disabilities advocate for themselves. So we all want to teach our children with special needs to be self-advocates, in that they can speak up for themselves as they get older and protect their own interests, and are not so compliant that they don't tell other people when they're being taken advantage of. You know, so we all want to teach our kids to behave well. We don't want to teach them to behave too well, because we need them to be able to articulate if they're being taken advantage of. So when do parents become advocates? This happens when parents see that the systems of service delivery are not responding to their children's needs. So no one would be here on a Friday morning if everything was going really well. You know, we have other things to do. It's usually because we're thinking, why am I not being heard? Here's the situation, it's very problematic. What do I need to do to be heard? Why is the parent or family member the best advocate? Because they know the child best. The parents are responsible for protecting the child or adult with a disability. And the parent is focused on the long-term well-being of the child or adult. Now, although I'm focusing a lot about the role of the parent and that being, I'd also like to now have a plug for siblings, because often we're focused so much on the child with special needs that we forget about the role of the siblings and the support that they need. So I think as your children grow older, if they're lucky enough to have a sibling, and a sibling who isn't also affected by autism, to make sure that you develop that relationship as positively as possible is really important. I know I found it very challenging with my own children because Adam's behaviors were so difficult. And his sister, not surprisingly, was not particularly patient as a child. But it's been very interesting to see how that has changed, particularly as she started to learn to study psychology and learn about autism. So often what happens with our children is if we can teach them what is their brother or sister's personality and what is the autism kind of distorting that, if it's untreated, you'll see that the siblings respond very well to that. So if you bring them in, don't try and protect them from because they know there's something up with their brother or sister at a fairly young age. If you can share with them and make them not another parent, but if you can give them the respect of acknowledging that they understand and they are having a special set of circumstances. That goes a long way to developing the relationship with the siblings and the relationship between the sibling with special needs and their brother or sister.